Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So today's Dhamma talk will be in English, and I understand it's not the first language of most people here, so I'll try to speak in a clear and simple, straightforward way, but sometimes I might use long words or speak a bit quickly, so please excuse me for that if it drifts in that direction. So the theme today, uncertainty about uncertainty. This is a common question. Sometimes it's difficult to understand the Buddha's teachings because of the way that words are translated or the way that we understand them from listening to Dhamma talks or reading the suttas. And so my understanding or how I've read the title is to look today at the difference between uncertainty as a hindrance, as an obstacle, and uncertainty as a source of wisdom. These are, I presume that's the one of the areas of interest that has caused this theme to be offered. So uncertainty is an English word, and in the Pali, though it can be a way of describing both the hindrance or the nivarana, the obstacle to samadhi, that's called vicikicca, or skeptical doubt. So the word doubt is another word that's used to talk about uncertainty. So the title for today could be Doubt About Doubt, similarly. So when we talk about vicikicca as an obstacle, it's one of the 5 hindrances. I'll try not to have too many lists or make it too technical today, but so the Buddha spoke about 5 different qualities that are obstacles to concentration, that are obstacles to clarity of mind. These are not the only 5, but these are the sort of classical 5 that he spoke about. So there's sense desire, ill will, so kama tanha, sense desire, ill will, vyapada, the quality of dullness, dinamita, and then restlessness, uddhacca kukucca, and vicikicca, skeptical doubt. So those are 5 aspects of mind that cause it to be difficult to concentrate, they cause unclarity of mind. So in that respect, skeptical doubt or vicikicca, uncertainty, is it's almost always involved with a sense of I'm wondering what to do. What's the right thing? Should I be doing this practice? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? Am I following the instruction? Is the Ajahn right? Do I understand better than that person? I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm not reading anybody's mind. This is the kind of things that we think about, particularly in early years and times of meditation practice. Is Buddhism correct? Is the Buddha's teaching right? Maybe Mahayana Buddhism is more correct than Theravada or Vajrayana Buddhism from Tibet, and or maybe Christianity, or maybe Islam, maybe Vedanta, Hinduism. Maybe that's the right path to go. So these are all areas of what we call vicikicca, skeptical doubt. And it's an obstacle to concentration because of the way that the mind buys into those thoughts and takes them to be absolutely real and valid. It's an important question. So the mind, absorbs, buys into those questions, and then there's that feeling of disturbance. So that the 5 hindrances, the 5 nivarna, as the Buddha described them, they kind of overlap with each other. It's not just that one is completely distinct from the other, but they are all quite related. So uncertainty in this respect is is a challenge. It causes us to be confused and disturbed. But it always has a sense of I and me and mine woven in there. I would say almost always. There's I'm not sure what to do. I'm in doubt. I'm unclear. What should I do? These are the common feelings that we have. Am I getting this right? Should I go left? Should I go right? What should I do? And so that is the classical way of understanding uncertainty as an obstacle. So then we have, say, in Luang Por Chah's teaching, one of his Dhamma talks is called Not Sure, Meine, the standard of the noble ones. So then when we read that, why we might be uncertain about uncertainty is like, hey, I thought uncertainty was a niwon, was a hindrance. How can uncertainty, how can being not sure be a standard of the noble ones? How can that be something that the Aryas are, say, cultivating or using? How does that make sense? What's the source of that? So that kind of uncertainty it's doubting, but it has and even though we might use the same words to describe it, meine, it's used in a very different way, so that kind of uncertainty is related to what in Pali is called yoniso manasikara, which means wise reflection. Literally, it means investigating the origin, looking at the root, the source of things, or Dhamma Vijaya, the investigation of reality. So it is a kind of questioning. It's an uncertainty, but it has a completely different tone. And so that today I'll try to explore these themes and talk about the two different types. And so that it makes it clear, like one kind of uncertainty is useful and the other kind of uncertainty is not so useful. But, I hope that's a clear enough place to begin. So when the mind is taken up with vichikicha, that kind of skeptical doubt, as I said, there's usually a sense of I and me and mine involved with that. But with the second kind of questioning or doubting, investigation, what's useful to understand is that kind of investigation doesn't have to have any kind of I or me or mine involved. There's no sense of atta, no doton, no I and me and mine, so that that's in a way a clear mode of recognizing which one is which. Is that when it's skeptical doubt, there's a kind of agitation in the heart, but also there is the feeling of I and me and mine involved. When there's a quality of investigation, when there's that use of the pattern recognition capacity of the heart, of the wisdom faculty, there's no sense of I and me and mine as part of that. It can be completely free of any sense of atta, of I and mine, any kind of self-view or conceit. So with respect to the first kind, the niwon, the kind of uncertainty that's an obstacle, it's good to know or to consider, how does that happen? Or why does the mind get lost in that? How does that work? So there's a particular teaching that I like to quote, and many of the other ajahns in my same community often quote this particular sutta, and where it's spelled out how the mind gets lost in its thinking, how it gets caught up in doubt and other kinds of mental chatter. And so for those of you who are interested in studying suttas, this is sutta number 18 of the Majjhima Nikaya. So those of you who like the books, it's sutta number 18. So it's called the honey ball sutta, the Madhu Pindika sutta, or the sweet morsel. And actually it was the main part of it was spoken by the Buddha's disciple Mahakachana. So the sutta starts off with the Buddha sitting by himself in the forest, sitting under a tree. And the Buddha is quietly meditating by himself in the forest, and then a Brahmin who is a professional debater. In India, and it still happens today in Indian culture, you have people who are like professional philosophers, and maybe you have a wedding ceremony or a birthday, and you get two philosophers to come along and argue some philosophical point as kind of entertainment for the party. So that's still that was happening in the Buddha's time, and it happens today. So this professional philosopher, this debater called Dandapani, came along, saw the Buddha sitting under a tree, and thought, "Oh, this is that wanderer Gautama. He's supposed to be so wise, supposed to be so clever. Yeah, I'll see what he's made of." So Dandapani went along and stood in front of the Buddha and kind of got his attention. The Buddha opened his eyes, and Dandapani was somewhat aggressive, assertive, and said, and just standing up in front of the Buddha said, what is it that you practice? What is it that you teach? You know, what is it the philosophy that you propound? And the Buddha, as we know, was extremely wise and observant, and he saw that this person was not at all really interested in what the Buddha understood. He was just looking for an argument. And it was absolutely correct that Dandapani was just looking for a fight, a kind of philosophical battle, trying to prove himself cleverer and more knowledgeable and more competent than the Buddha. And so the Buddha, reading the situation very clearly, said, "Yeah, I teach and practice the spiritual method of not arguing with anybody in the world." So Dandapani, as it said, he couldn't find any way of responding. So it says his forehead puckered into three lines, and he clicked his tongue and went off without having anything to say. So that he couldn't come up with a response to that, because he knew he was looking for a fight and he wasn't going to get a fight. And like in the old days in Europe, when you had two knights challenging each other, a knight would take off his glove, his gauntlet, and slap the other knight in the face and then throw the glove down. It's called throwing down the gauntlet. Some of you might have come across that in various stories or seen that in movies, throwing down the gauntlet. So that Dandapani threw down the gauntlet in front of the Buddha, and the Buddha basically said, "Nice glove." You'll want to pick that up, or you won't have a pair anymore. You know? And so all Dandapani could do was take his challenge and walk away with it. So when the Buddha got back to the monastery, and there was a few of the Sangha were gathered, and he described this incident, and he said, "It's through attachment to perceptions and thoughts that we create conflict, we create division. This is the reason why we take up weapons and argue and fight in the world." And then he just said those few words and then went off into the Ganda Kuti, into his kuti. And the members of the Sangha who were left there said, "What did he mean? He didn't say much. He didn't explain anything about that. So let's go and talk to Mahakachana, because he's the one who he's most capable of explaining in detail statements that the master has made in brief." So off they all go to Mahakachana. They describe the incident that's happened. And so they said, "What did he mean that attaching to thoughts and perceptions is the cause of conflict?" That is Mahakachana who gives this sort of detailed description. And he said, well, what the master meant was that when there is the sense organ, the eye, and there is the sense object, like that light, when the object and the sense organ meet, then there is contact, phassa, Phassa in Roman script, phassa. So there's sense contact. So then sense contact leads to feeling, vedana. There's a sensation, liking, disliking, neutral feeling. That's the basic instinctual reaction to any kind of stimulus, what we hear, what we see, what we taste. The very first thing is like, don't like, neutral. And then, following from the Vedana, there comes sanya. Sanya is the perception. So that's the part of and this is actually neurologically quite accurate in terms of the way our perceptual systems work. So the Buddha was an advanced neurologist, so he knew how these things work. So you have an initial sense perception of liking and disliking, attractive, dangerous, neutral. And then following that, the sanya is, oh, that's a red light, that's a blue light, that's a green light, that's an object moving towards me, that's an object moving away, that's a loud sound, that's a quiet sound. So sanya is related to the English word sign, S-I-G-N. So sign and sanya, they're connected. So it's the characteristics of the perception. So that's the sanya. So there's the contact, then the feeling, then the sanya. Then the sanya leads to vitaka. So vitaka is a conceptual thought. Oh, that's a red light. What does that red light mean? Oh, that's a person speaking. Do I understand the language? Yeah. Oh, they're talking to me. So the vitaka is the use of conceptual thought to describe what the sense experience is. It's a taste, it's a sound, it's a delicious taste, it's a disgusting taste, it's a nice sound, it's an ugly sound. It's like, oh, that's a person talking to me. That person's not talking to me. So the vitaka is the use of the conceptual thought to describe what is being experienced through the six senses. So then, so far so good. Okay, it's not complicated yet. Then the next stage, vitaka, then leads to papancha, prungdang, the kind of the way the mind takes a thought and then runs away with it. And so rather than, oh, that person's talking to me. Why does he always talk to me like that? He's such an annoying person. He's got this view about me. He doesn't respect me. He always talks down to me. He thinks he's so... Again, I'm just making that up as a kind of random example. Or like you taste something. Oh, this is delicious. This is amazing. What's the recipe? I've got to find out. Yeah, who made this? I've got to learn. I can't rest until I've got the recipe for this delicious food and whatever it might be. So papancha, the Pali word papancha, is translated into English as conceptual proliferation. It's the way the mind creates what is called associative thought, one thought following another, and in a way that's you're never really finishing a sentence. It's kind of, it's just one thing just chasing after another, and so the mind gets lost in those strings of associative thought. So this is a very common experience. It used to be more common in Europe and in Western culture than in Asia because of the Western education system. Now, Western education systems have come to take over in Asia as well. So everybody is reading books and learning, gathering information from 3 years old and going through the intense learning systems we have through school and university. And so you can't really distinguish the populations around the world. Everyone tends to think too much in all of the developed countries where they have an intense education system. Then there's a lot of thinking going on. I would say that might sound like a sweeping statement, but and it's certainly in more simple cultures, more village cultures, agrarian kind of farming cultures where there's less of a formalized education, less time spent with words and concepts and numbers, then there's less of that effect. But everywhere, it's a kind of downside of education. You know, obviously, education is a wonderful thing, gives us hospitals and bridges and clean water and all these fine refinements of life, the products of abundant education. But the downside of education is kitmak ganbai. It's kind of thinking too much, and so we can't stop the thinking. And so this is papancha getting overabundant, extreme papancha. So then papancha leads to papancha sanya sankhar, which is the described as the multiplicity of thoughts and feelings that oppress the heart. And a simple way of understanding that, it's a very long Pali word, papancha sanya sankhar. It's that feeling of me in a state of pressure with the world, me separated from the things that I want, me afraid of the things that are going to hurt me, me wanting to get away from this place and get to that place. The sense of tension between a me here and a world out there, that's the result. And particularly in this teaching is pointing out that's why we take up weapons, we argue with each other, we conflict with each other, we're afraid of each other, we're averse to each other, we attack each other, we are say defending ourselves against each other. And so as the Buddha briefly stated, this is the cause of conflict, why we take up weapons, why we argue, why there is disharmony, is getting lost in that me here, the world out there, and the pressure between them. So then this is what Mahakachana explains, the mind getting lost in thought. And so then they have the occasion then to take that to the Buddha. Ananda, I believe, is one of the people listening to this, and he recounts the Ananda is very, very impressed by Mahakachana's analysis. This is great. This is amazing. Better check with the master to see that Mahakachana's got it right. And so Ananda takes that account. And Ananda had perfect recall, so he recites the whole thing to the Buddha, and then the Lord Buddha says, "Very good. Mahakachana explained it exactly as I would have explained it myself." And Ananda said, "Yeah, this is amazing. This is like a sweet ball of honey. This is like a delectable morsel of food. What should we call this sutta, Venerable Sir?" And the Buddha said, "Well, you can call it the honey ball. You can call it the sweet morsel." So that's why that teaching about getting lost in our thoughts is called the honey ball sutta, the Madhu Pindaka sutta. So pinda is like a ball of food, like pindabat. A pinda is a piece of food. Madhu is honey, so the sweet morsel. So that's a very useful teaching to learn. And in meditation practice, then, and when we have a retreat time or a period of meditation, this is a process to get to know how you hear a sound, a noise in the street, or you hear your phone going off, or somebody else's phone going off. And you go, "What's that?" And so what does the mind add to that sound? Well, there's contact, there's feeling, there's perception. Oh, someone's phone going. Oh, it's my phone going. Then what does the mind add to that? Does it turn into a whole story about, "Oh, it's so embarrassing. I told everyone else to shut their phones off and I forgot to shut my phone off." Yeah, that's happened before. So, or is it just, rather than turning it into a whole big story, it's, okay, oh, my phone is going, switch it off, forget it, leave it be, don't add anything to it. So in the meditation, we can see how if the process just goes contact, feeling, perception, and even vitaka, even thinking, it's no problem. Just naming what's present. Here is a sound, here is a memory, here is an emotion, here's excitement, here is regret. That's it. There's no complication, there's no conflict coming from that. When it gets from vitaka to papancha and papancha to papancha sanya sankhara, then that's when the uncertainty or the thinking turns into a real cause of stress and difficulty and dukkha, suffering for us. So I feel that's a very useful teaching to get to know. Lumpur Sumeto, Lumpur Viradamo, myself, others, Lumpur Basanno, and many of the other Ajahns of our tradition quote this very often, but it's I know many people are not particularly fond of the suttas. That's a good one to get to know. Very, very useful, because it maps out the track whereby we get lost and we find ourselves in conflict with other people, or how that happens in the world. So with respect to the mind getting caught in that, and particularly with doubt, skeptical doubt or doubt, what should I do, and getting lost in that papancha, if we can see that process happening, and if we can train the mind to not follow that, then we can just notice how the mind forms those questions. The vitaka on its own, like, what should I do? Am I doing the right practice? That in itself, that's not an obstacle. It's just, what should I do? It's a simple question. It's a little string of words arisen in the mind. So if we develop the meditation to the point where we don't let the papancha, the run away, then we can recognize even important doubts, something to do with the family. You know, should I buy the house? Should I not buy the house? Should I sell the house? Should I not sell the house? Should I keep my business going? Should I close down the business? Should I give it to my brother? Should I not give it to my brother? You know, important things that are kind of loaded in the family life or business life, in our working and our living world. If we develop the clarity of mind in meditation, then what we can see is that, as Lumpur Sumeto said and talked about for many, many years, seeing a doubt just as a doubt. And you might think, well, how does that help? I still don't know whether to give the business to my brother. I still don't know whether to buy the car or sell the car. How does that help, Ajahn? But what is happening with any kind of doubt, whether it's about meditation or about your family life or your finances or whatever, when we have a doubt, if we're believing in it, then we feel there's something missing. There's a question and it's lacking an answer. So if we buy into the doubt, into the question, there's something missing. And the more problematic the doubt is, the more compelling it is. I've got to know, I don't know, I've got to know. And we try to think our way to a doubt. And again, this is where our education and intelligence can be a big problem. Because the cleverer you are, the more answers that you come up with. But maybe some of you have realized already, you can't think your way to the end of a doubt, I would say. It's like a courtroom battle where you've got two really, really good lawyers arguing against each other. And the lawyers are being paid either way, whether they win or not. So when the mind is caught into a doubt, it's like a courtroom battle, and trying to think your way to certainty. Then you think, now you've got it all logically figured out. You've got all the evidence. Say, yeah, this is what I should do. And then the doubting mind says, yeah, but on the other hand, you should. Like two really good lawyers have always got an argument, and the lawyers are being paid, whatever. Their job is to keep arguing. Forgive me if there's any lawyers in the room. Not trying to be rude, but it's just, this is an example of how the mind works. So I would say you can't think your way to certainty. So this teaching that Luang Por Sumedho would give, a doubt is just a doubt. And so when we buy into it, we feel there's something missing. But then if you notice how it works, what should I do? That in itself is a mental formation. It tells you there's something missing. But in actuality, the question is a complete thing on its own. Kajai mai? What should I do? That's a thought. It begins and it ends. And so when Luang Por Sumedho say, a doubt is just a doubt, see doubt as just as a doubt. I heard him say that for like 3 or 4 years before. Oh, that's what he means. So if you get that in one go this afternoon, very good. It took me 3 or 4 years to really kind of, oh, that's what he means. That there isn't anything missing. It's telling you there's an answer missing. But in itself, it's just, here is a way of describing a particular set of experiences. What should I do about the house? What should I do about the meditation practice? It's a way of assessing or talking about a particular pattern of experience in our life, in this moment. That's all. And if we buy into it, there's something missing. I haven't got the answer to whether I should or I shouldn't. But if there's a stepping back and say, well, what should I do? And so Luang Por Sumedho would say, notice the space before the question, then ask the question, and then notice the space after. And it's telling you there's something missing, but that's a lie. Ben Gohok. It's not true. It's just, it is a question. So when he said, see a doubt as a doubt, so you might think, well, how does that help? I still don't know what I should do. But what happens is that when we drop the question, as it were, when we let go of the question, or we see it, oh, a doubt is just a doubt, then our capacity to assess the situation, to see the whole picture, that gets bigger. We are able to see what's going on in a broader way. We realize that the way we're asking the question is making things narrow or particular. And so when we drop the question, or we just recognize, oh, that's a question, then we are opening up the field of awareness, and we're able to see the picture in a more complete and more broad way. As an example, I'll try not to get too sidetracked, but for many years, I was the monastery secretary for Amaravati, and the English Sangha Trust secretary was Ajahn Atapemo. And the two of us shared an office together. So I looked after the monastery affairs. He looked after the Gamagan, the committee's affairs. And so we shared an office together. And so frequently people were coming through our door, with issues and problems, like, what should we do about this? What should we do about that? And after a couple of years, I noticed my list of things to do is much, much longer than his. How come I'm taking responsibility for all these things and he seems to be avoiding? And his name is not on all the stuff that needs to be done. Well, how's he doing that? And so then I realized when somebody came in and said, "Oh, Ajahn, the felt has blown off the roof. We need to re-roof this building." I said, "Oh, really? Okay, tell me what you need." So when someone would come in, with an issue or a question, I said, "Oh, Ajahn, the roof has blown off this building. Yeah, and what can we do?" And then I noticed that Ajahn Atapema would say, "Good question." I would say, "Oh, let me help." So my first feeling was, "You rat, how sneaky." But it took me it took me a long time to notice that he did that. But in a way, that's a good answer or a good response, is to say, "Good question. This is your issue, or this is an issue. It doesn't have to be my problem that I take on." So just to be able to meet a doubt that comes into the mind with that good question. What should I do? Good question. Should I go left? Should I go right? Good question. Should I sell the house or should I not sell the house? Good question. So might seem very trivial, but just in that, you're opening up the picture a little bit. It's like, well, why do I have to decide? Maybe I can discuss it with the rest of the family. Or what does my brother think about it? Does he want the house? Does he want the business? Or is he dreading me giving him the business? Oh, I never asked him. Oh. So again, I'm just making these things up as random examples. So this is a way of drawing upon what you can call your own intuitive wisdom. You're opening your heart up to a bigger picture. So one friend of ours, actually a Christian monk, Brother David Steindl-Rast, who did a lot of Zen meditation practice in the Japanese tradition, is a very unusual Christian monk. But he was doing this kind of using Buddhist meditation, and the way he talked about this area of practice was, he said, if you drop the question, the answer appears. And that's to do with, and he compared it within his own Christian discipline. He said, as a Benedictine monk, you're supposed to be completely obedient to the abbot. It was very interesting the way he said so, but the word obedient, you might think you have to follow all the commands of the boss. So actually, the word obedient comes from ob audiens, the Latin, which means to listen completely. Oh, that's interesting. So you're listening to your heart. So you're obedient to the way things are. So you're listening. Okay, what's going on here? What's the situation? What's in the picture here? So I thought that was a very good way of talking about that. When we drop the question, when we let go of the limitations of the question, and we just see, oh, that's a question, good question, then we're able to listen more completely to the whole situation. What's involved here? What's of benefit? What's of harm? What's to consider? So these are all aspects of working with doubt, skeptical doubt. So the other kind of uncertainty is, say, the quality of investigation or wise reflection, yoniso manasikara. And so those of you who've listened to many of Luang Por Chah's Dhamma talks or read his books, you'll know that there's a lot of his description of him kind of reflecting on his own experience. He kind of talks to himself a lot. He said, hey, I considered, well, why do I do this? Or, hey, I say the sound is annoying me, but actually it's me annoying the sound. And so Luang Por Chah used that method of wise reflection a great deal, and it's there in his many of his teachings. So yoniso manasikara is one of the four. Again, it's another list. Excuse me for all these lists. So yoniso manasikara is one of the four supports for stream entry. So that kind of investigation is really useful. It's like what helps the mind to enter the stream of Dhamma. So the first of those four, for your information, is Satpurisa Sangseva, drawing close to good people, number one. So the angel group, ta-da, yes. So far, so good. Drawing close to good people, Satpurisa Sangseva. Sat means true or good. Purisa is a person, like Purut. Sangseva is to draw close or to associate. So the first support for stream entry, Satpurisa Sangseva. Second one, Sadhamma Savana, listening to the good Dhamma. So I hope today's a reasonable example of that. Sadhamma Savana. Listening to true teachings, attending to true teachings. The third one is Yoniso Manasikara, wise reflection, investigation. And then the fourth one is practicing Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma, which is might sound a bit mysterious, and if we have time, I can explain that a little bit. But that means essentially practicing Dhamma based on Dhamma, not based on self-view. Again, talking about I should do this with my practice, I shouldn't do that. I'm progressing, I'm not progressing. That I should try harder. I'm getting it right. I'm really succeeding. I'm going places with my practice. That's all practicing Dhamma in accordance with self-view. Practicing Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma is here is right intention, samma sankappo. Here is right effort, samma vayamo. There is direction given, an effort is being made. It's free of self-view, free of doton, free of atta, free of any kind of self. So practicing Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma is engaging in Dhamma practice free of I and me and mine. Anyway, so yoniso manasikara, wise reflection, is the use of questioning, or the use of inquiry, challenging our assumptions. Like, why does it work this way? What's going on here? Why does my mind do this? What's the best way forward here? So it's still a kind of questioning or uncertainty. And when Luang Por Chah says uncertainty, meine, the standard of the noble ones, it's based exactly around this quality of wise reflection. Because as human beings, as living beings, we get habituated. We get used to a particular way of seeing things, of thinking about things. We call something good, we call something bad. This is beautiful, this is ugly, this is right, this is wrong. I approve, I disapprove. This is mine, that's yours. We label the world, we label our lives, ourselves, our mind, our activities, and we take those labels as absolutely real and true and valid. And so the mind, which is using uncertainty as a tool, is saying, wait a minute, is that so? And one of the ways that Luang Por Chah, and I was talking about this the other day in a Dhamma reflection, one of the ways that Luang Por Chah encouraged the development of wise reflection is just to ask the question, when you notice your mind making a judgment, that's awful, to ask, is that so, Jingla? Yeah. Is that right? Is that so? When they say, oh, that's really wonderful. This is exactly what I wanted. Is that so? This is exactly what I didn't want. Is that so? And this is a way of activating that quality of wise reflection, because again, that letting go of our habits of judgment, then we are tapping into that intuitive wisdom, that's the panya aspect of our own citta, the wisdom faculty of our own heart. As long as the mind is limited by our judgments, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, this is mine, this is yours. As long as the mind takes those as absolutely true, the panya cannot function. It's limited because of our narrow attachment, our beliefs in our thoughts and our opinions. Only when we recognize, well, that's an opinion, it's just one way of seeing things, then the wisdom faculty of really attuning to the reality of the present, then that panya can function. So the use of uncertainty in this way, qua minere, to say it's not a sure thing, is because we keep, and again, this is where our intelligence, our competence, and our range of knowledge can be an obstacle. Well, I grew up wanting to have an answer for everything. When I was a child, I used to read encyclopedias, so I would know everything. I was really a know-all. And I would, even if I didn't know the answer, I would pretend I did know the answer. So that was not very skillful. But I wanted to know everything, have an answer for everything. So this is an obstacle because you think that the information is an absolute truth, that I know, I have got the information, I understand, I can explain everything. And so, again, I'm not down on intelligence and knowledge, but when we take that, my opinion or my piece of knowledge as an absolute fact, then we are shutting ourselves down to the full actuality, the full truth of the present moment. And so that reflection on Mainea, it's like, well, I call this true. Is that so? Is that a sure thing? So that I remember when many years ago I met a medical researcher. When I was living in the US, and he had a speciality of one particular kind of lung disease was his speciality, and talking about his work, he said it's impossible to read all of the research just done on my one disease, my one speciality. It's physically impossible to keep up with everything that's published. There's just too much. Just on this one illness, it's bottomless. Even as you're reading, people are doing more research. There's more information coming in. That you cannot know everything, even about one aspect of one disease. You can't know. Similarly, in the world of physics, if you ask a high school teacher, what is an atom? They say, oh, well, the nucleus is made of protons and neutrons, and the electrons go around the nucleus. But if you talk to a university professor and you say, what's an electron? They go, oh, don't even ask. It's impossible to describe, really. And the more you know, the more you realize you can't really describe what anything is. Again, there's probably a few physicists and chemists and professors in the room. Excuse me if I'm getting this wrong, but this is my experience of, if you say, well, what actually is a quark? You go, oh, actually is not the right word, Ajahn. Words don't go there. So that recognition that when we use words, like we talk about an atom, we talk about a person, we talk about a building or a group, it's a convenient fiction. It's a way of using language to point in a particular direction. It can't embody the absolute truth. And the Buddha, over and over and over and over again in his teaching, he points to this, and so that he says, you can practice the Dhamma, you can realize the Dhamma, but you can't explain, you can't describe that ultimate reality in words or ideas, and there's no point in trying. But it can be awakened to, it can be realized, but not as a concept, not as a set of words. So with Mainea, the uncertainty being the standard of the noble ones, it's that readiness to challenge your opinions and to talk about things, in an everyday way. Yes, we could say, today is Monday, the 8th of June, 2569 in the Thai calendar, 2026 in the Western calendar. Yes, good enough, close enough. It's a different day and different time in different countries, but right now here it's 2:47 Monday afternoon. Here it is. It's good enough, close enough. If we recognize our opinions are convenient fictions, then we are much more able to harmonize with each other. If I think I've got the facts and what I know is true, even if I've got all the information, then we find ourselves conflicting with others in a state of harmony and conceit. I didn't understand it. I was still addicted to information and knowing everything when I showed up at the monastery in 1978, 25, 21. and I was 21 years old. I'm the same age as the Poisson, as the Buddhist year. So I was born at the end of 2499, so I'm the same age as, I'm 69 now, in 2569. So easy to remember the year. So I was 21 years old, and I thought I knew everything. And so when I first showed up at Wat Bananachan, and I noticed that the monks and the novices kept talking about views and opinions. Well, that's just your opinion. I think, what are they talking about? And I got into discussions / arguments quite regularly. I said, no, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. And they'd say, yes, it's your opinion that it's a fact. So it would be very annoying. But then, I thought these monks are stupid. I was kind of conceited intellectually. And so I thought, these monks are really stupid. That's a fact. But then I realized, after having been there for about a month or 6 weeks, something that I was sure about as a fact 6 weeks before, I then realized was that the truth was a bit different. I was seeing things differently. So then it struck me, So 6 weeks ago, that was a fact. Now this was a fact. So either I was right then and I'm wrong now, or I'm right now and I was wrong then. Oh, that's what they meant. It was just my opinion that it was a fact. Oh, that's why they keep talking about views and opinions. It's these things are changeable. They're not dependable. They can't be absolutely true and real. So, a physicist can't really define what is an electron or what is a quark. A mathematician can't even really describe what is one. In the great mathematical tome called Principia Mathematica, that was published by Alfred North Whitehead and Bertrand Russell back in the early part of the 20th century. It's a huge 3-volume work. They tried to pin down all the principles of mathematics from the absolute ground of logic. And to describe the number 1 takes about 200 plus pages. And then 1 + 1 = 2 is about 350 pages. But even then, when they published that, somebody came along a few years later, an Austrian logician called Kurt Gödel, who in a simple proof showed that every proof has to be either incomplete or imperfect. There's undecidability, uncertainty in even the most rigorous and thorough mathematical proposition. So he was a doctoral student, I believe. This was in 1931. So Principia Mathematica was published about 1913. And in 1931, Gödel published this, and it's called On Undecidable Propositions in Principia Mathematica. And so this was supposed to be, we're proving everything. This is the absolute truth about number and mathematics. We've got it. 3 big fat volumes. Now we know. And then this Austrian logician came along and said, excuse me. And in one simple proof, well, not that simple, but a clear proof, he said, there always has to be undecidability. So to me, he understood meine. He saw the truth of anicca, uncertainty, even in the realm of mathematics, that no matter how hard you try, there's always qualities that are undecidable, that can't be proved, that every proof has to be either incomplete or imperfect. So Kurt Gödel was not a happy man, but he was a brilliant man. So I feel his insight was very, very acute. He's in a way, he understood the truth of dukkha and of anicca there in the conceptual world. So it was a powerful and helpful insight that no matter how hard you try, tuksing tukyang mainan, everything everything has to be uncertain. And so to the ego, that insight is unsettling. It's like, oh, don't say that, Ajahn. I need some security. Just something to hang on to. If telling me everything's uncertain it's making me worried. So it is threatening to the ego. And so sometimes people say, coming on this retreat, challenging everything, I feel really, really thrown off balance. It's like, well, that which is thrown off balance is worth throwing off balance. I would say that because in order to say free the heart, the ego needs to be challenged from its role of leadership. So the ego needs to be dethroned. Now, one of Ajahn Sujito's books is called Unseating the Inner Tyrant. So the ego acts like a kind of dictator or a supreme monarch, or a kind of absolute monarch that's sort of commanding everything in our life. So when we are developing the insight into uncertainty, it's like politely removing the tyrant from the throne, taking the president out of the role of absolute leadership. The ego is not put in charge of our life. The ego is useful to get about in society. We have a name, we have a role, we have an identity number, a passport. The ego is useful within society, but if we put the ego in charge of our life, then conflict and difficulty, tension follows from that. If we let the ego just be a useful ubai, a useful kind of skillful means, then it can serve well, it can be of benefit. But when we put it in charge, then trouble follows. So the insight into uncertainty, it threatens the ego, but it frees the heart. It's in the same gesture. What is challenging to the duodon is liberating to the citta. It's a kind of in one movement. So if you feel insecure, to recognize, well, that's the ego, the duodon, that's being challenged, that's being threatened. And so it's appropriate and useful that it is threatened. It's like the tyrant being annoyed that they're being removed from the throne or taken out of the president's seat. It's like, I don't want to lose power. It's like, well, yes, thank you very much. We know you don't want to lose power, but please go and sit over there. Got a nice little retirement cottage for you by the beach. So that when we see the value of that insight into uncertainty, rather than focusing upon the feelings of insecurity, to put the attention on the heart. What does it feel like? How is the heart when the ego-centered thinking has been challenged? What's here? What's present? And what is noticed? There's a sense of spaciousness, ease, peacefulness. There's a quality of freedom. Speaking of uncertainty, so after the last time I was here, December of 2024, in January of 2025, I had a TIA, a temporary ischemic attack, a mini stroke. And I'm a very wordy person, as you might notice. And I was reading a book, a Dhamma book, to prepare for it was Lumpur Pasano and I were leading the winter retreat at Amaravati Monastery, and we were having daily readings from the book we wrote together called The Island, about Nibbana. So I was due to give the reading that evening, and I was preparing the reading and had the book in front of me, and suddenly the word I was looking at lost its meaning. I thought, this is strange. I'm trying to read a word and I can't read the word. There was my vision wasn't blurred. I could see clearly. There were black marks on the white background, but the shapes stopped having any sound or any meaning. If I really concentrated, I could say, oh, that's a C. What sound does the letter C make? So, S, or a ch, or a k sound. Oh. I could, and with great effort, I could get a sound. Okay, what is this word? Nothing. So my ability to read disappeared. So at that moment, it was uncertain what was happening. My vision was quite clear. It wasn't blurred. I didn't have a headache. I wasn't dizzy. I felt quite comfortable. But my brain could not read the words on the page. And so the first thought was, oh, perhaps my karma with the written word has just ended. I didn't know what was happening. I thought something odd was with my vision, but I was due to give a reading to the whole community in 15 minutes time. So I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting Dhamma reading today. And it's actually, they were filming them, so I think you can see the film of me not being able to read very well is there in the records. But it was very strange. And what was happening was I had a temporary ischemic attack in the verbal area of my brain. After 45 minutes, then it cleared up and I could read again and it was back to normal. But I went to get various tests and was scanned and so forth the next day. And they said, well, that's what happened. But it was a very interesting moment. So if the mind had been attached to the the realm of words or my capacity to think and to read, then there would have been a lot of anxiety and oh my God, what's happening? I'm having a big problem. But it was interesting. I'm not trying to boast, but it was interesting that the first thought was, oh, that's interesting. Perhaps my karma with the written word has just come to an end. And that was really the thought was, okay, makes life simple. All those books I was in the middle of writing, okay, maybe they're just not going to get written. Okay, the world will keep turning. And so that was, I felt a good example of living with uncertainty. I don't know what's happening. Fortunately, as I was trying to do the reading with the whole group of people, Ajahn Dhamma, who used to be a nurse, was sitting right there in the front row, and he was like, this is not good. So the next morning he was there with a blood pressure testing kit and I had hospital appointments made that day. And I'm on 3 different kinds of medication now, so that I have to take for forever. But it was in terms of today's theme, that I felt it was a really good example of living with uncertainty, and the uncertainty being a source of liberation and freedom rather than anxiety or distress or conflict. It's just, okay, well, maybe I can't read anymore. That'll be a change. So I wonder what will happen from here. And it was interesting to see there's no distress. It was just, a kind of curiosity. And so I'm not trying to boast, but I would say when we meet with radical uncertainties like that in our life, both with our health or the living situation or the political situation, rather than that leading to stress and difficulty and conflict, that can be interesting. It can open up the field. Oh, what will life be like if Ajahn Amaro can't read anymore? Oh, well, we'll find out. I still can. I've written a lot of words since I wrote 2 books after that, so by hand. So my words haven't run out yet. But it was I felt it was a good example that even when something really unbidden, unexpected, and inconvenient might be happening, if there's a skillful attitude, then it can be a source of peace and happiness and freedom rather than something that we regret or resent or anxious about. So I see that the time has gone round to 3 o'clock already, just ring by the way. So the time has flown by, so we can open things up for some dialogue and some questions if people would like to ask anything.
Thank you for the Dhamma talk, Pra Ajahn. One question to clarify, and then another question, if I may. The first one is, you mentioned a sutta that we all should study that deals with papancha. Which sutta is that?
Number 18 of the Majjhima Nikaya, called the Madhu Pindaka Sutta. Madhu Pindaka. The honey ball or the sweet morsel.
Sweet morsel.
The sweet morsel. Pinda is like pindabat, a lump of food.
The second question is, if I may, I'll present to you a very extreme situation, and I want to ask how to apply what you just taught us to that situation. So I hear that one of the worst things that can happen to anyone is illness or death of a child. So say my child gets in an accident in ICU, you don't know whether the child is going to live or die. First, there's the shock. Like everything comes at you, I would presume. How do you deal with that shock to begin with? But if you're a practitioner, I would think you would go through that shock a while and then you would find some space. So how to deal with the shock initially, and then after the shock has subsided, how do we deal with the papancha that comes after the shock?
Oh, well, a good question. I would say the first thing to do is to pay attention to that shocked feeling. Normally, if there's something that's painful or challenging, we want to get rid of it. We want to get away from it. We want to switch off or be distracted. We don't want to feel emotional or physical pain. So that turning of the attention to this is what the shock feels like, and using the feelings of the body rather than just the mental dimension, because the body is always absolutely here and now. You don't have to encourage the body to be a kaliko. The body doesn't ever wander off into the past or the future. Like, nobody here got so distracted that suddenly the seat was empty. Like, the body is absolutely reliably present in the Paccupana. So using the feelings of the body, this is what the shock feels like. Even if it's like, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. That's that feeling of I can't breathe is what's present. So not trying to get rid of it, not trying to make a comment about it, or whether it should or shouldn't be there, just here it is. And that simple phrase, here is this is here. That just 3 words is incredibly powerful. Here it is. This is here. This is what's felt, and without adding anything to it, whether it should or shouldn't, whether you like or dislike. In the moment, here is this. This is what's here, and the more wordlessly one can receive that and appreciate that, the more it's digested, the more that it can be balanced. Because even something that's intensely painful, emotionally or physically, the heart can be at peace even with intense pain. You can be sitting there with tears running down your face with intense grief, and your heart can be completely at peace with it. It's painful, but there's peace with it in relationship to it at exactly the same time. As soon as you start thinking about it or worrying or writing a story, then then it throws things off balance, and the tears will probably stop or change. But there can be a great clarity and peace even with painful experiences. And so then, as the papancha kicks in, what should we do? What's the doctor saying? Are the doctors all saying the same things? What's the family saying? What am I feeling? Just to be able to recognize, oh, look, the papancha mill is really spinning. That the fountain of thoughts is really bursting. There's kind of a huge array of thoughts. Here it is. This is what that papancha feels like. Here it is again, so that you're not trying to shut it down by force, like shut up, but just recognizing, well, this crisis has happened. My child is in the ICU. Therefore, there's this flood, this fountain of different thoughts and feelings. Here it is, and again that very acceptance, what I call a radical acceptance. It's like having metta, a radical acceptance for even that kind of blizzard or fountain of thinking, because that which knows that fountain of confused thoughts is not confused. The awareness that knows confusion and agitation is not agitated. When it locks onto the objects, then it feels agitated. But it's just like I was giving the example this morning to some people. We can hear a really loud sound, a really kind of violently loud sound, but inside you can be completely quiet. So your heart is quiet while your ear is hearing a loud sound. It's silent inside, but then there's a lot of noise. It's exactly the same with thinking. That which knows a riot of kind of great fountain of thinking can be completely quiet. Like, wow, this is really going. And so, and it's not suppression, it's not aversion, it's not like vibhava tanha. It's that quality of awareness, the vijja dhatu, I like to use that, the tat rule, the element of awareness, that doesn't have any intrinsic connection to the object. So Luang Por Chah used the image of oil and water in a bottle. So when you put oil and water together in a bottle, if you shake them up, it seems like one liquid. But if you put the bottle down, then the oil and the water separate from each other. You, the agent, the boss, doesn't have to make them separate. You don't have to separate awareness from its objects. If you just put the bottle down, then the awareness and the objects separate from each other. So samadhi, or that collectedness of mind, effectively is putting the bottle down and letting the awareness separate itself from feelings of excitement, feelings of fear, feelings of jealousy, feelings of worry, anger, whatever it might be. So it's not suppressing those feelings or saying I shouldn't be having these distressed or upset feelings, that they're there because of our relationship with the child in the ICU, that's because of that close connection, therefore those feelings. But it's helping that quality of awareness to separate from. And sometimes when people hear that, and this is a common misunderstanding about non-attachment, there's, oh, so I just kind of shut my heart down. I'm just turning myself into a video camera. Like I'm a data reception unit, like feeling, hearing, thinking, emotions. Like that's not it at all. That's not the way it works. That it's that separation of the awareness from its objects enables the awareness to attune more fully, as I was saying, it can completely to the situation. And then what can be done, what can be said, then arises guided by wisdom and mindfulness, not guided by reactivity and worry and irritation or habit. It's by, and so that's why teachers like Luang Por Chah are extremely unpredictable. He never knew what he was going to say next, because it was completely on the basis of who he was with and what was the dynamic in the conversation. He would, the last conversation I had with him, he contradicted himself 4 times. He said, I just got news my father had a heart attack. And so my last conversation with Luang Por Chah, with exactly the same expression, he said, go to England, pay your respects to Luang Por to Tan Sumeto, take care of your business with your family and come back to Thailand straight away. Go to England, pay respects to Ajahn Sumedho, spend time with your family, and then you can stay with them for up to a year. After a year, come back to Thailand. Go and pay respects to Ajahn Sumedho, stay with your family. If they really need you, you can stay on with them. But it's much better if you come back to Thailand whenever you can. And then he said, go to England, pay respects to Ajahn Sumedho, take care of the needs of your family and don't come back. And that was in 20 minutes, 4 completely different instructions. And like, these are your instructions, follow them to the letter. Like, and no recognition, no acknowledgement that he just contradicted himself 4 times. So, and basically the message was, figure it out yourself. So it's an important principle. Non-attachment doesn't mean being passive. Right? I should just be unattached. That's vibhava tanha. That's like pushing things away. Sometimes, and again, I made this point a few times. Sometimes non-attachment means you take more action than you would when guided by self-concern. That you're more courageous to do something and say something. You're letting go of your hesitancy. You're letting go of your fearfulness, so that you find you have more courage, more ability than. So letting go can lead to much more action and more personal involvement. One last thing to share with you from Luang Por Chah. Speaking of Luang Por Chah, so he liked to sometimes say things that were surprising, or challenging to people. And just like he gave me 4 different pieces of advice that contradicted each other. So one of the things that he said was, uncertainty is the Buddha. And so that is a surprising statement for many Thai people or traditional Buddhists. Uncertainty is the Buddha. And so when he said that, he would get people's attention. Uncertainty is the Buddha. How is that? And then he's, again, using logic, said, well, when the Buddha said, one who sees me sees the Dhamma, one who sees the Dhamma sees me. What is the Dhamma? The Dhamma is the truth of uncertainty. So if one sees the truth of uncertainty, then one sees the Buddha. So the uncertainty is the Buddha, is the logical conclusion of that, if you can follow. So that the mind that truly sees uncertainty is that awake, aware Buddha mind.